Welcome to Sterling Visionary Voices, the podcast dedicated to bringing you diverse, innovative leadership insights and actionable strategies for success. Join hosts Laura McNeil and Bob Medeiros as they explore the art and science of role model leadership through thought-provoking conversations with real professionals. Whether you're a seasoned leader or aspiring to excellence, Sterling Visionary Voices is your guide to navigating the complexities of your leadership journey.
A critical component of a continuously learning organization is a continuously learning leader. In articles published by Forbes and Harvard Business Review, several compelling points were made to highlight the importance of continuous leadership learning. These included: an increasing pace of technology and marketplace change requires leadership's ability to adapt and prepare the organization. Educated and constantly learning leaders have been proven to produce broader networking opportunities, deeper marketplace relationships, inspired team members, and more creative team outcomes. It has also improved employment engagement, leading to higher organizational-wide alignment with strategic objectives and priorities, resulting in a decrease of organizational expense and an increase in revenue. With us today is Nichole Solomon, a lifelong learner herself with 18 years of management, training, and facilitation experience in the areas of leadership, building and motivating teams, change management, strategic planning, and project management. Nichole is a certified master facilitator, a Sterling Master Examiner, and is the executive director of Solomon Leadership Solutions, LLC, a small business dedicated to training and coaching leaders. Welcome, Nichole. This topic of leadership learning is something that I personally know you have studied and presented on in the past in many different venues. Can you kick us off today with why you think this topic is so important?
Absolutely. And thank you again so much, Laura, for having me on Visionary Voices for a topic that I'm really excited to talk about. Here's actually a quick stat to get us started, something to think about. The shelf life of most professional skills, think about our professional skills. The shelf life of those skills today is less than 4 years. So what that means is that the things that we were experts in, let's say 3, 4, 5 years ago, might actually be outdated today. And that's actually faster than most of us probably upgrade our phones. I really want to talk about why learning for leaders isn't just about a personal development choice that a leader may make. It's actually a professional survival strategy, in my opinion. If we want to stay relevant as leaders, if we want to lead effectively, if we want to inspire others, we've got to commit to learning as a lifestyle. Our world is changing, it's constant. The complexity of things is rising, and certainly the pace of innovation is threatening those who are unprepared. It's leaving people behind. So right now in our workplace, in our world, learning isn't just nice to have. It's not necessarily just that workshop you went to that you can check off your list, or even a podcast. And we love podcasts, right? We're doing one now that you listen to maybe in between a meeting. I like to think of leadership and learning for leaders as fitness. The same fitness that we put a lot of energy into for our physical well-beings. Can we shift our thinking and our minds to be thinking about upgrading our leadership fitness? Going to the gym once and calling ourselves strong, we'd be crazy to do that, right? It's about the consistency. It's about being intentional. It's about choosing every day to take care of those muscles. Leadership, in my opinion, is absolutely no different than that. I think leadership is a sacred gift that we have to give. As leaders, we're constantly having to make decisions, and those decisions, they affect people's lives. They affect their potential. It affects their futures. So as leaders, we want to show up. We want to show up prepared. We want to show up with clarity and confidence and creativity. But in order for us to get there and stay there, we've got to train for it. And not necessarily just with books or certifications. But I also like to think about showing up with curiosity, showing up with humility, and showing up with practice. So I'm going to take some time today, and Laura, I'd love to kind of hear your thoughts on some of these. So some of these mind shifts that I'd like to make and invite others to take along with me about why leadership and using the metaphor of fitness, why it's not just ongoing learning isn't just nice to have. It's actually an edge that can separate a resilient leader from maybe a reactive one. Laura, what are your thoughts on that? That leadership as a fitness?
Oh my gosh, I love this, Nichole. I love this. Are you fit to lead? I love that tagline because you're absolutely right. Some people think that they're appropriately skilled to lead and anybody can be a leader, but it's so not true because the real value of leadership is the ability to motivate and inspire those that work with you. And if you're incapable of inspiring and motivating, then you're doing more harm than you're doing good. It's the creativity that we incite in the individual and the individual in the group that they're collaborating with that really shows the value of the leaders that are in play at any organization of any size. So I love this analogy of fitness. And I love how you started it out by saying the shelf life of your leadership skills expires, just like bread or milk sitting idle in the refrigerator. And if you're not staying current, you're not fit to be the leader of today. I love that analogy. Absolutely love it. It's the first time I've ever heard that analogy.
Yeah, I love it too, and it's one that I've really attached myself to because think about that as a metaphor for things that you may be going through in your own life. For me, personally in my own life, I'm going through my own fitness journey, like true fitness journey of diet and exercise and trying to make myself stronger and healthier. That metaphor can really fit with the mindset that we may have on how we can become a stronger and more fit leader. Those same tenets apply. Consistency builds strength, just like physical fitness. Leadership acumen, it grows through regular, deliberate effort. Leaders who tend to treat learning as a habit rather than just a one time event, they develop stronger and sharper judgment. They're usually more emotionally intelligent and they are happen to be more adaptable and resilient over time. Another way that that metaphor fits is mental agility. Mental agility is also a muscle. Our brain, Laura, thrives on challenges. So engaging with new ideas, whether that's through technology or maybe new ideas or perspectives, that keeps leaders mentally flexible and better prepared for uncertainty. It's like cross training for the mind. I live near like a cross training gym and I see the cross trainers outside pushing the big tires and doing things with ropes and things like that. And they are building their muscles, their physical arm muscles or leg muscles or back muscles. But as leaders, if we're looking at building our brain muscles, our mental agility, we can be doing activities that foster that as well. It's really about progress over perfection. It's not about being perfect, but it's about showing up. So, leaders who embrace learning as a journey are generally more open to feedback and experimentation and growth. And that mindset of leaders fosters that innovation and that resilience. We talk about working out our physical muscles to help with stress, just like exercise can help regulate stress. Continuous learning can provide mental clarity and confidence. So, leaders who invest in their own development are better equipped to handle those pressure situations and make thoughtful decisions. We always talk about leaders as being role models too. When leaders treat learning like fitness, they set the tone for their teams. It signals to their team members that growth is not just expected, but it's also supported, it's celebrated. And not just for performance sakes, performance is good, but also for just long-term well-being of the individual and of the organization. Now, I do have a quick question for you, Laura. I don't know if you've ever been on your own, maybe physical fitness journey. Maybe you were trying to lose weight or you had some health goals. A lot of times when that happens, people hit a plateau. Have you ever experienced that or seen anybody who's experienced hitting a plateau?
Yes, absolutely. Not just in my running days, in my weightlifting days many years ago, but also in my career. Plateaus occur in your family life, in your marriage. It occurs everywhere, those plateaus in dieting. Yes, absolutely. And so you need some kind of a secret sauce or a game changer to get you kickstarted again.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes for leaders, this may come and show up as leaders being comfortable. Sometimes when a leader may reach a certain level, they may get the actual title, and there may be a temptation just to coast. But there's some danger in that. Stagnation can be silent. It doesn't necessarily just announce itself, but it certainly can erode in your leadership acumen, in your leadership development, in your influence as a leader over time. When I think about that metaphor of physical fitness, where sometimes we hit a plateau, maybe we're going along and we're doing really well, and then things just kind of stop. Maybe the progress seems to stop. And for some people, that may become a comfort place, right? And say, you know what? I've made it. I'm okay. I'm okay with this. But as leaders, and just as we talked about earlier, it's so important to keep pushing through that, to keep determining what is that next challenge? What else can I learn? Who else can I learn from? What else is out there that can keep me inspired so that I can then translate that inspiration to my teams to kind of meet whatever those goals are that we're trying to set. So we talked a little bit about the leadership fitness piece and as a mind shift change for leaders thinking about why they should continue to be learners. Another thing, and Laura, that I want to talk about is curiosity. Being a curious leader is so incredibly important in your own development and how you look at the challenges you face to become better as an individual leader and to help your organization become better. I kind of call this curiosity as a KPI. Leaders who are genuinely curious ask better questions, and better questions usually drive better decisions. One of the new personal habits that I've developed for myself is not just reading and I read some books or articles and I listen to different podcasts, but one of the things that I really wanted to try to do most recently is to listen to individuals who maybe are completely outside of my field. I work in the social services area. I do a lot of studying around leadership. I've started to actually listen to people who do things outside of that. I actually started listening to some different podcasts with different people on healthcare and the future of healthcare. Or I even listened to a couple folks talk about supply chain management. And that's not anything I necessarily do. But what that was able to do is I was able to pick up on things, and there's almost like pattern recognition that starts to happen. It's like your brain starts shooting in different ways as you start to listen to these thought leaders or experts in different fields. And you can see how those things maybe can apply to your situation and your scenarios. Curiosity, it helps us build bridges across teams and functions. So as leaders, when we model that curiosity, it's like we're giving our teams permission to explore, to challenge assumptions, and then ultimately to be creative and innovative, because that can be a differentiator in our organizations. When we foster a spirit of curiosity from frontline team members, individual contributors, managers, and certainly when senior leaders are role modeling that behavior, it's really setting your teams up for success. I think I've actually heard you maybe talk about curiosity a little bit, Laura. Anything you've got on curiosity and why you think it's important for leaders to have?
Curiosity, in my opinion, just like you framed out, is essential for innovation. It's essential for creativity, and it is a cornerstone for learning. If you're not curious, you're not going to grow. And leaders, as figurehead or a role model of an organization, if they themselves are not growing, then they're not inspiring their teams or their goals to grow. So curiosity to me is an essential element, a characteristic of a leader, especially since leaders are positioned to be focused on creating the vision and driving the strategy for an organization.
It's a great segue to what I want to focus on a little bit next, too, which is sometimes leaders have to know that they don't need to know it all. There's a quote I love that says, We don't need know-it-alls. We need learn-it-alls. Great leaders don't need to know everything. And in fact, humility is one of the most powerful traits a leader can have. I'll give you an example. In the current role that I'm in right now, I've been in this particular role for about 2 years as a contact center director. And while I had multiple years of supervision and management under my belt leading teams, there was still a gap for me in some of the acumen, the technical acumen of running an actual contact center. But fortunately for me, I was paired with a mentor who I was able to watch, I was able to shadow, I was able to learn from. And I was humble enough to understand that I didn't know it all. And having that strong mentor and coach to guide me, it has made all the difference in the world in my development as a leader in the space that I'm a leader in now. When leaders can show that vulnerability, not just the curiosity, but the vulnerability and willingness to learn, that unlocks the trust of their team members. And that trust can accelerate performance. It's authenticity. When you say, I don't have all the answers, it fosters psychological safety for teams. Teams are more likely to speak up and share ideas and then take initiative. It encourages collaboration. It empowers others to lead. Sometimes, as leaders, if we can take a step back and let the experts on our team that we built take over, it creates space for them. It helps build their confidence, their accountability for owning deliverables. And it opens up the leadership capacity across the organization. It's how you grow future leaders and not just followers. It increases agility in uncertain times. We talked about how fast our world changes these days, so we can't predict everything. But leaders who embrace uncertainty and lead with that curiosity and humility can be more adaptable. They're not so anchored in just being right all the time. They're actually focused on the learning and the evolving. And again, it models a learning culture. As a leader, I love to say, I don't know, but let's find out. Let's find out together. That normalizes learning and exploration. It creates a culture where experimentation is safe, growth is expected. And it's not just from those people that are doing the work. It's not just from the team, but it's actually from the leaders themselves, too. I talk a lot about burnout. Trying to know everything and control everything as a leader is exhausting, and it is absolutely unsustainable. So, delegating knowledge and decision making, it lightens the load for leaders. But guess what? It also can speed up execution and decision making, and it builds resilience across the team. So, in short, on this particular section that I wanted to cover about humility, not knowing everything isn't a weakness. I want to shift our mindset to saying it's a superpower. It's a leadership superpower. If you know how to work with that curiosity and that humility with your team so that you guys can continue to grow together.
I love that. I love the characteristics of curiosity and humility and working together. In fact, you're making me think back to a leader that I had years ago who purposely would pretend he didn't have the answer. And he would say, well, what do you think? I have my perspective, but what do you think? Show me what you think, and then we'll go from there. It not only inspires, but it motivates and it engages. And I think it's really the key. The curiosity and the humility are the keys to opening the door to propelling your organization and your teams even further through the unleashing of that collaborative engagement and creative inspiration.
One of the things, too, that I want to share about this learning journey for leaders. And again, we want leaders to really understand that this isn't a one and done kind of a thing, that learning is continual. One of the things I've realized too is that kind of old model that I grew up with, that I understood as how you learn something, was kind of flipped on its head. There's this model called the 70-20-10 model, and it's a framework for learning and development. It's often used to guide leadership growth and professional training. And so here's kind of what it is. 10%, so 70-20-10, that's the model. The 10% is learning through formal education. How do we really learn? Only 10% of that, Laura, is really through our formal education. And that could be through structured programs or workshops or seminars or online classes or certifications and things like that. 10% of that, of our learning really comes through that formal approach. The 20%, that's learning through others. So I just actually mentioned an example of that. That's me and the mentor that I had who was showing me things and guiding me and teaching me. And that's that interaction with colleagues and peers and mentors and even receiving feedback and participating in team collaborations. 20% of my learning came from that. But guess what the 70 is? The 70% of our learning is coming through the experience of doing it. The majority of our learning is happening while we are doing it, while we're living through it, while we're working through the real world tasks and actually problem solving. There's space and a place for all of the different types of learning. I use myself again as the example. When I became the director of the contact center, I went and took a class. That was like one of the first things I did. There's some training out there that I took from a professional organization on contact center management. But following this model, 10% of that, of me taking that class and getting that certification, 10% of me being able to really learn what it means to lead in this contact center environment came from that experience of taking the class. And then I said again, I had a mentor and he was phenomenal and he taught me so much. But 20% of me learning how to be a contact center manager came from my experiences with that mentor. You know what the other 70% is me actually doing the job, taking on the challenges, leading the team, managing through organizational challenges and changes. That's where the learning comes. So when I think about how can we continue this conversation and talk to people about what they could be doing right now, I say do all of it. Think about your strategy or as a leader of how you're going to learn, keeping that 70-20-10 model in mind. As I mentioned earlier on in our discussion, leadership learning, I don't want people to walk away saying, okay, well, I'm going to go out and read a book. Reading a book is great. And leaders, guess what? Leaders that read a lot of books usually become better decision makers. So reading is great. We say, well, I'm going to go out and I'm going to get a mentor, or I'm going to get a coach. That's great. You're going to learn a lot from that experience, and it's certainly going to continue to drive your leadership acumen. But don't forget about the day to day of doing it, of taking on those challenges. That's how we're going to continue to learn and grow, is by actually doing the work. I always say to people, if you want to become a better speaker, a lot of times people say the things they struggle with the most is, I get really nervous and I want to become a better public speaker, Nichole. I said, well, guess what? You can go and you can read the 10,000 books that are on Amazon on how to be a better public speaker. You can even get a mentor who's going to give you some tenets and coach and guide you on how to be a better speaker. How are you going to become a better speaker? You got to do it, right, Laura? You got to practice speaking and going through the motions of it and maybe messing up a little bit and learning from that and tackling it again and getting up and doing it again. As I think about what I want to leave people with in this discussion about leadership and learning, is think about that multifaceted approach you may want to take for yourself to start to embed and hardwire learning as an exercise in your life, just like you exercise and you go take a walk every day, or you set your fitness goals to drink water every day, or to have a better food nutritional diet. What are those action items? What are those things you're going to build in to practice and build the muscles of leadership for yourself?
I really love that. Thank you, Nichole, for this topic. This has been very, very insightful. Was there anything else you wanted to share as we wrap up?
Yeah, thank you again, Lord. This has been great. I always want to just throw out some things about how someone may walk away from this conversation and say, well, what are some things I could do right now? So here's a few tactics that you can maybe take with you and start using right now. You could block out 15-minute, what I call learning sprints. busy leaders kind of need to use their calendar to make time for things. So just like you would guard it, like you would guard it with a meeting, maybe you calendar in for yourself some learning sprints, and you can make it a 15 minutes for it. Maybe listen to a podcast, maybe read a chapter in a book. One of the things that I've heard that people are doing is called reverse mentoring. And that's where they are mentoring across generations and maybe having someone in their organization who is of the younger generation actually mentor you on some things and teach you some things. Maybe if they are happen to be more fluent in some of the things on technology, maybe they can show you some things and you can build that partnership there and be learning some things there. I always know when I'm working with, I have a teenage daughter, and being around teenagers keeps you young. So consider some mentoring pairs and how you can add that to your strategy for learning. Think about, sometimes we have quarterly performance management meetings where everybody sits around and talks about performance and where we're doing well and things like that. Think about asking questions during those of where did we fail? What did we try that didn't work? What can we learn from that? That creates a safe space, if those are done well, where people say, you know what, we tried something, it didn't work. And what can we learn from that? How can we grow from that? Another question you can add to one of those types of performance meetings is, what did we learn this month? What did we learn this quarter? Not just what did we do, but what did we learn? And I think if we can start asking questions like that, that's going to change the culture of our organizations. And you, as the senior leader or the leader, it has to really start with you.
Very good sage advice. It does have to start with the leader. Well, thank you, Nichole. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day and life to visit with us and cover this topic. As I mentioned, it was very insightful. I've learned a couple of things myself. The value of reading all those books is 20%. The 70% of doing is something I'll probably need to focus on more. And I think that doing actually speaks to engaging with staff.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
I also like the point you made about respecting the team members and the value the team members, the expertise the team members bring to the table. I think that humility really goes to that. And it really goes to the factor of you don't have to know everything, and you really do need to engage your team. It's a team sport. Running an organization is a team sport. It's not for one. All right. Well, thank you again, Nichole. Appreciate it. We'll have to have you back.
I love to. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Laura. It's a pleasure always.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Sterling Visionary Voices, Insights for Role Model Leadership from the Sterling Council. Discover more and connect with us at sterlingvisionaryvoices.com.